Okay, welcome. My name is Rudy Knapp, and this is my first podcast. I like to call this podcast Legacy Building Your Kingdom. We'll go into a lot of reasons of why I'm doing a podcast and why I call it Legacy and Building a Kingdom. But I want to start off with some disclaimers. I'm as real as it gets. I live my life following no one else's rules except for God's. I listen to my heart in every decisions I make. I preach constantly. Anyone that knows me will have a conversation with me, will understand that I am going to preach what my feelings are and what I believe. I'm a huge component of integrity, which means it means the world to me. Match your words with your actions. That's just how it goes. So I just want to give a little disclaimer that I do talk a lot, and as many people will say, I will continue on and I will preach and I will pass my word, and I will go into the reasons of why I want to share out. And if anyone is interested in what I have to say, you'll understand my life lessons and what I've gone through, and I just want to pass it on. So that's my disclaimer. I want to dive into a little bit of why I call it Legacy. Just going to take a step back for a second. I met someone that talked to me about this word legacy. I'm a dad of two kids. I have twins. They're 13 years old. My son would play sports, and I would coach him. So I was a wrestling coach. I was his football coach. Ever since kindergarten, I have been part of his life through the coaching world. One of the biggest things with me is I got a lot of joy in the idea that I could go back to him and provide these life lessons through this world of sports. I think sports are huge for our youth. I think they're extremely important for understanding life lessons. It's interesting because it became such a big part of my life and changing my life with the people that I've met in these sports, with the involving myself with really good company that has helped me to grow, exponentially as a person, my character and who I am and what my values are. So again, going back, I met this person and after football ended, I had a really tough time, and I had so many people that reached out. I mean, it was absolutely amazing that I've coached so many kids and so many families been involved. It's unheard of to think of how much gratitude I have for the people to show their appreciation, to reach out to me, to talk to me about how I was a great coach and have this conversation about me as a person. And I just never looked at it that way. And I always looked at it as I'm here to help the boys, help the boys wrestle, help the boys play football, help the boys learn life lessons. And, it's very humbling to understand, when this ends, you don't have that ability anymore. I can coach, and I can go coach my son, and I can, try to coach him in other things, and I can, but it's time for him to go on his way and do his own learning from his other coaches and from, people that can be involved in his life where I'm not there. And I can be dad, and I can cheer him on, and it's a really tough role to change from being his coach, and then all of a sudden I'm just dad. So I was always both, and anyone that's ever talked to me understood that my son earns his way, and I'm what you might call harsh, I guess, but I call it I'm teaching you. And the idea of him understanding that he's not going to get a free ride just because I'm coaching is really important to me. He has to understand hard work. He has to understand if he wants something, he's going to go get it. And it's not always going to be success. We'll get into that a little bit. But the idea that I have for him is to make him successful, make him his own person, and have a little guidance from me. Don't go through all the hardships if you don't have to, but you're going to go through hardships. You're going to make decisions on your own, and that's what makes this world great. That's what makes free will great, is that we have the ability to do whatever we'd like to do on our own with our own choices. So going back to this word legacy, these people have reached out to me, told me how grateful they were for me, and I'm so appreciative of the kind words from coaches that I've coached with, from parents that I've dealt with throughout the entire program, from the actual program reaching out and really expressing, their gratitude towards me. I felt overwhelmed because I never once, I didn't ever put it about me. This has never been about me as a coach. It's been about my son and his teammates. And, when this person reached out to me and was talking to me and talked about, I'm a legend, I have this legacy, and that word didn't sit well with me at first, and I thought it was really interesting because I had a hard time with it. My coach in high school had a legacy. I mean, he was a legend, and he was a Hall of Fame football coach and a Hall of Fame wrestling coach, and he just was. His line at his funeral was so long, and he was just loved, and people say his expressions over and over to this day. I still use them with my kids. Don't be sorry, be smart. There's different things that we have to look into our lives and how we've connected to certain people and why they came into our life. And, we'll have a lot of discussions on that. But one of the things that I know is that a great coach can make an impact. And so I had this conversation, we talked about legacy, and I really dove into that idea of what is legacy. And I had to think a lot about this concept of legacy. And what I've come up with is that legacy isn't just that you were great. It wasn't that you were a winning football coach and you were this, loved person, and all these things that come with that idea of legacy and being great. It's not about that. It's about who you are. What does your character represent? It's about your integrity. It's about your concept of you and what you bring to the table in this world. I really dove into this, and I really finally came up with this conclusion of, this is my legacy. This is my life. This is what I do, and this is who I am. And every person that comes in contact with me gets the real version of me, because I don't do the sugarcoating, and I don't do the bullshit, and I don't do the things that a lot of people do to put on a surface level. I'm not surface level, and I don't believe anyone should be. You are an in-depth person. You were created to be in depth. You were created to have this sense to you, to dive into what are you curious about? What are you going to apply yourself to? What do you really want, and are you going to go get it? And so this legacy that we talked about, it was really eye-opening. I really thank this person for putting that in my mind, because what I found is that no matter what, everybody has their own legacy. So I'm going to put it in perspective. If you've ever seen the movie Coco, it's a Disney film, I believe, cartoonish, but it's an awesome film. It's a great movie for kids, and I remember watching this with my kids, and such a great message. I love those films because they have messages that are so, intriguing that you can apply it to your life, and these life lessons, these life skills that I keep talking about, which, again, great coaches will give, and they will make that connection. So Coco has a premise where, what happens when you die, and after you die, where are you at? And so in this culture, they believe that there's an afterlife, and there's this afterlife you are in, and on, the Day of the Dead, we go and celebrate these people, and we cross over to a path in which we get to meet our ancestors that have passed away. And as long as you remember them, as long as you are still remembered in the life now, then they will live on forever until you are forgotten. And once you are forgotten, and then no one's speaking of you, you don't have pictures of this person out, they will wither away and be gone. Their soul will be gone. So that's kind of how I think of legacy. Like, are you remembered? How are you remembered? How will you like to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered after you're gone? I mean, I believe that most people would, right? You have family, you have loved ones. We want that for them to remember us. And what did we bring to them? So yes, we might be in a better place. Yes, we might be wherever God puts us. But what we won't have the ability to do is dictate who will remember us, and what will they remember us for, and what stories do they remember, and how did you bring light to their life. So this legacy is literally who you are, and how people will remember you, and how they use you and your energy in this world. And so I love the idea of it. I really love that idea because it piggybacks on what I've preached for so long. And, some people will take this a different way, and some people will um, look at this in a different light, but it brings me to the idea of kingdom. I'm a firm believer in this. I've preached this for a long time now. I have this sense to me that I identify with this lion. And so when I say lion, I say that I'm a protector. I say that I'm in control of my life. This is my kingdom. And any time that I live, every single day that I live my life on anything that I do, this is my kingdom. I control this. I control what comes into my life. I control the people in my life. I control blocking out the negative things in my life, who's not allowed in my kingdom. I control my events and my actions and everything that's involved with my life. No one else gets to do that. They don't get to control mine. They control theirs. They have their own kingdom. They get to decide how big their kingdom is, how many people they allowed in, how many experiences you have. They get that. I get the same. And I live my life by surrounding myself with good people, general good people. Like if they are not good people and I can feel that in my heart, you're not allowed in my kingdom. The saying is a lion, you know why he's the king of his jungle. A lion is the king of the jungle because when he roars, you can hear his roar 5 miles away. He doesn't live in the actual jungle. He lives in the grasslands 5 miles away, but you could still hear his roar. One of the best comments I've ever gotten was from this person that said, "You walk in the room and you demand a presence. You have a presence to you that everyone has to acknowledge." I mean, that's powerful. I don't know if that's what I have. I believe that because I've been told that. I love that idea. I want to have that. But I will say that was one of the best comments I've ever heard in my life, and it was, or compliments I've ever heard in my life, because that says a lot more than just the words say. You want to be known. You want to have this presence. Do I care about fame? Absolutely not. Do I care about being popular? Absolutely not. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to live my life and be real. If you don't like me, you don't like me. But you better know that I'm going to walk in that room, and I'm going to make sure that I have the ability to be in that room. Another old saying would be this: when you're in a room and you're the smartest person in that room, you don't belong in that room because you have no room to grow, right? You're not learning from anyone else. But if you're in a room and you're the dumbest person in that room, then you better understand that it takes growth for you to never be that. You should always walk into a room where you have substance, where you can be able to speak, where you have knowledge of whatever's going on, whatever audience is around you. That being said, I'm a teacher, and because I'm a teacher, I really believe in understanding that education really is the key to all successes. And people always look at that as, well, book smart, and you have to open a book, and you have to read about math and science and all these things. Technically, that's not what we're talking about when we're saying education. You educate yourself on the things in your life, the things that could possibly be in your life, the things you're curious about. You're constantly trying to learn from other people around you. You build your encyclopedia of knowledge. And so I'm old school. I had an encyclopedia growing up, and you had to go to the library, and you had to read the encyclopedia. And I will say it's way different than this world, right? You got Google at your fingertips, and you can find anything out. It's amazing. We have the ability to learn anything we want whenever we want. So it's crazy to me to think that we're building this encyclopedia of knowledge just for us to understand that we don't need it right now. We need it later. We need this plethora of knowledge so that when we walk into a room, we can make a connection to something, which is a huge topic for me: connection, patterns, understanding that we're creating a life that is built to connect to other people's energies, other people's events, other people's activities, to understand that when we can make a connection, we become powerful. So again, walk in that room, you better not be the smartest person in that room, you better not be the dumbest person in that room. You have work to do. If you are in that room, though, you better be growing, you better be listening, You better be trying to apply what you see and what you've learned and what you are learning in that process, because that's the key to us becoming better people, right? We're building our legacy right there, right? We're adding to our legacy, and we're building our kingdom by adding knowledge to it. We're building our kingdom by meeting new people and networking and learning from others. And it's so great because this is a big part of this whole concept that I have. Building a kingdom, it's really a unique conversation because it extends even further. I've had many conversations about building my kingdom and how I believe that in my kingdom, I do believe that there is, your family, and there are people in your kingdom that are going to be very, very unique to you and really important to you. And those are people that you hold very close. You have acquaintances that are great, and you have friends, and you have, all these other things outside that are still part of your kingdom that you value. When you don't value them and they don't value you, they're no longer a part of your kingdom. You remove that negativity. It's really important to understand those concepts of removing the negativity from your life. I believe that we want to focus on the positive, but we understand everything is not positive. How do we deal with the negative things in our lives? There is a positive aspect here, that we can take anything that ever happens to us, any circumstance that ever happens to us, and we can change that by looking at it in a different light, by taking the positive from a really negative situation. It's hard to do sometimes. There's some really hurtful things that happen to us in our life. But we actually have to own on to the idea that this happened. We understand this happened. What did I learn from this experience? There comes the positive. We talk about relationships a lot. Going through relationships with myself, understanding, what do I learn from these relationships? You're in a dating world. What are you learning from the dating world? From every person that you meet, you learn something from them. You learn something about yourself. That's the most important part. What are you learning about yourself? A very special person to me. I learned so many things from myself, but it hurt. It hurt to learn them. It really hurt to learn how I can come to a point of who I really don't want to be. And that's eye-opening. That's work that needs to be put in. That's a concept in which you have to control your emotions. Controlling your emotions is so difficult, because control is a huge topic. And when we talk about this word control, there are so many things in life that have to do with control. Controlling what you do, controlling what other people do around you, what you do not have control of, what God controls. There is this concept that we can get into at another time, but when I start talking about control, I think it's an important concept that we have to learn about ourselves. When can we control things? When can we not control things? How do we control things that are very difficult for us, like emotions? And for myself, I've learned a lot about my emotions, and one of the biggest forms of strength is an idea that you can control your emotions when you are upset, when you are angry, pissed off, whatever it is. You have to have the ability to control your emotions. And some people have a really hard time with it, and I will be the first one to tell you that in one relationship, I had a very, very difficult time with it, and it taught me a lot about who I am. I'm still learning. I'm still working on, and it's very difficult to look at yourself in a different light, right? But it is also part of your legacy. How do I overcome this? How do I fix this? What will I do going forward? How do I apply this to any other relationships? How about your relationships as a parent? Again, I'm a dad, and it's my most important role in life. It's literally the reason I'm here. And so when I say that, I don't take that lightly. I take that as, I've seen so many experiences with parenting, and I have a lot of opinions, and that'll be a whole podcast on its own about parenting. But I will say this: nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You can ask my kids that. I'm sure they'll tell you I'm not perfect, but I will say my intentions are very well near perfect when it comes to the sense of what I want from my kids. There's this concept of my kids being better than I am. I will never, ever be a success. I will never look at my life in any other way unless I know that my kids are better than I am, because it's the most important thing to me. And that means when I say better, we can say that in many different ways. Just like anything in life, we can skew the data, we can look at certain things. I'm talking about better in general as a person, in their heart, who they are they happy? Am I guiding them to be happy in their life? Because I believe that this life is not about money, it's not about fame and fortune and being a star athlete and all these other things. It's never been about that. It's about your happiness. Some of those things can bring happiness, sure. I believe money, everybody says money doesn't bring happiness. I think that's a lie. I think money can bring happiness. I didn't say it does, I think it can. I mean, it can bring opportunity. It can bring events with your family. It can bring experiences. It can bring vacations. It can bring ability to meet other people. It can bring a lot of things. It's opportunity. But is it the only thing that's important in life? You can have all my money. My kids are the most important thing in my life. My relationships, my kingdom is the most important thing in my life. And if you live your life that way and you understand that your kingdom is worth more, then you understand that a lot of this has to do with, looking past superficial things. I mean, do I need the best clothes, the best car, the best house? I don't need all that. I need to provide for my kids. I need them to see that I'm happy. I need them to see that they should be happy. Relationships, they have to see happy. That shows us that we're modeling for our kids to move forward and be happy. I'm divorced, and my kids have gone through that. So when that happens, what we find is that, what is this about? My ex-wife is amazing. She's the most amazing person when it comes to being a great mother. She's the most amazing person when it comes to being kind-hearted. She's an amazing woman. I can't ever express that enough. I think that my kids will understand that. They hear that from me. They understand that her and I will always be on the same page. We will always raise our kids the right way. We will always put them first before ourselves. They understand that they come first, but we also know that as they come first, we're going to do our job. And our job is to parent them and to provide them with the best life they can have going forward. So whether we're divorced or not, they still have the same rules and the same consistency. And, we're very good parents. We're very good parents. And I will always take that as a badge of honor because I believe that I am. And I believe that she's the best. So when I look at that, I want my kids to know that. They should have an appreciation for their mother and for all the things that we have in our lives, and what they have in their life. So, it's a really humbling experience to look back at our lives and say, what did we get and where do we get this from, and who are we as people, and how did we get to this point? And I'm a very big advocate for the idea of understanding what the bigger picture is. And there is a bigger picture in this life. And God has a plan in these things. I don't believe that he has a set plan for anyone. I believe that we live a path and we have free will. So our path can change at any moment. It can change when you decide to do something and make a choice. So when we look at these things, I think we have to make choices that are best for our kingdom. How does that affect the kingdom that you provide? Again, as a king, as a lion in this kingdom, as the king in my kingdom, I believe that you have to have these important people, and the most important people are your family. A lot of people will tell you family's most important, but do you live it that way? Do you put your family first? Because that is such an important connection to this world. And part of that is to have your queen next to you. You're a king, have your queen. Or you're a queen, you better have your king. I have some, I guess maybe, I don't know if they're unpopular ways to look at this, but I believe, an emotional intelligence is important when it comes to being in a relationship. Understanding that you're, as a man, as a masculine person in this relationship, as a man, we live our lives as men, as providers, as protectors. That's who we are. That's what we're here for. And not in all cases, and I think it will generalize a lot of things while we talk on this podcast, but one of the things that I notice is that my needs do come last. My kingdom comes first. That means my friends might come first, and my kids definitely come first, and my ex-wife will come first at a lot of things, and my future person will come first, right? So my queen will come first. So my needs will come last because I'm not fulfilled as a man until the needs of everyone else is provided for. That's why I am a protector. That's why I am somebody that will put their needs first. I believe healthy relationships understand this concept. We'll get into relationships too at another point, but healthy relationships understand this concept. I provide for your needs because I feel for you. You provide for my needs because you feel for me. This is a give and take. But let's be real, men. If you're listening to this, I want you to understand a couple of things. She runs the show. We know that. There is a plan. There is a algorithm, whatever you want to call it, that has been in place for a long time. She does run the show. She takes care of all the needs. She takes care of that household. She takes care of kids. She takes care of your plans. She takes care of all these things. I'm not saying always, because there are some men that do get involved a lot more. I believe I'm a man that likes to get involved in helping with things, but we know she takes care of it. 95% of the time, she is the one that runs that kingdom. But you're still a man, and you deserve respect. And if you have a queen next to you, you have that person next to you who really respects you, who really looks into your heart and says, this man does all these things and appreciates, you will be at peace. You will live your life at peace because it's okay that she runs a show. It's okay that she's a queen. It's okay because you want her to be that. You want her to feel loved. You want her to have that. But what you surely don't want is disrespect. And the moment you get disrespect, it all falls apart because this algorithm broke. This isn't here. It doesn't work anymore. And she gives respect. She provides that. She appreciates. And you provide everything else, all her needs, all those things. And she provides to run that kingdom. And so it's a give and take. And we both appreciate each other. And guess what? You become a strong kingdom. That's a big part of this. Have your person, have your family, have your people. And when that happens, you become the two things that everybody wants in life. Everybody wants in a relationship. All right, you have safety. You're safe. You feel safe. Safe to be emotionally safe. Safe to be, physically safe at times. You provide that safety, and your partner feels safe. You feel safe, and then also you both feel at peace. I mean, peace is a hard thing. That means we got to get over, being jealous, and we got to get over, the past, and we got to get over, things that maybe didn't go our way. But yeah, it's a really, really deep conversation too. How do you feel at peace? And so, just get back to this. So my ideas for this podcast, this is the first one. You heard a lot of different topics so far that I can dive into. I have so many to talk about, but I believe overall, to have an overall conversation here, what I would love to do is I would love to extend this podcast out. So when I was talking to this person about legacy and how she thought that I should be pushed on to open up a podcast because I was really hurting about football. I really was hurting about it ending and not having this with my son, not those rides to practice, to talk about the team, to sit down and watch film together, all the things that we did together. I don't have that anymore. So I was hurting, and I think she really saw that, hey, you have these people that are really grateful for just having these connections and building these relationships. What makes a great teacher, a great coach, these things, build relationships with people. Let them know you care, because that's what really they will remember, not a football play, not a test they passed. They're going to remember that relationship you built with them. So she really pushed this idea of podcast, and I think podcast was a great idea for me to express myself. In no way do I care at all about this to be anything other than I want my kids to hear my words. I want them to have, this for them if they ever want it. What does Dad believe? What does he believe in? What are my values? What are my morals? What do I think? What do I believe? They've heard this a million times, I'm sure, some of these things, but now they get this recorded. They get this for them. But my idea is to bring them onto this show, talk to them a little bit while we have these conversations about some things. Some things they will not be on. Maybe bring some guests on to have conversation with. I find this out of my comfort zone a little bit because I'm talking to myself. And it's hard to talk to yourself on a podcast. You got to get used to this. But talking to someone else, have a conversation with me, sit down with me, I could talk forever, like my disclaimer talked about and like I had thrown in my face many times. But at least I get a chance to express myself, pass on a little bit to those around me that are part of my kingdom. And if you are part of my kingdom and you want to hear the thoughts, you're more than welcome to listen every week. You can turn it off. You don't have to. I'm not promoting anything other than people that want to be here and want to listen to my thoughts and learn a little bit about me. And the other part was my family, sometimes they know you from afar, but they don't know in deep what you're thinking and believing. I am an in-depth person, true and true, through my heart that people won't understand. I'm not surface level. I will never be surface level. I think about things. I dive into things. I do my research. I look up things. I talk to people like we've talked about earlier. Extend yourself. Grow. How do you help yourself grow? So we will talk about how do we grow in relationships? How do we grow in our kingdom? And how do we expand our kingdom? How do we grow when it comes to a physical health? I'm a 4:30 a.m. workout every single day. I don't miss a day. I'm the most consistent person in life, and I believe in consistency. And so if I put my mind to it, I will do it. I've changed myself throughout the years. I wasn't always like this, but I am now. And so when I look at this, we start looking at these things. How do we grow with our physical? How do we grow with our mental? The mental health is so important. What are you doing to apply mental health to your life? How do you better yourself? Are you going to therapy? Are you doing exercises to help yourself? One of my buddies put me on to meditating. Man, great. It's great. I started doing this a little bit. It's great. Mental health. So when you have a mental health growth, you will grow physically. You will grow into, spiritually. You'll start growing in all aspects of your life. So always about growth, building a kingdom, understanding your legacy, what's left behind, who you are as a person, and integrity. Be real, all right? Just be real. And I think that's when you start seeing that, you'll start seeing happiness. You'll start seeing improvement in every aspect of your life. One builds on the other. This is a connection thing like we talked about. I want my entire life to be at whole, and ultimately I want to be at peace. So these are the ideas. This is the end of episode 1. I really appreciate you listening. I think this is something that is going to help me grow, and that's what this is about, helping myself grow, but also let's see if I can help other people grow. I want to build you up. I want to build you up. I want to build everything up about you. We'll talk about building people up and some of the ideas we have and my son and I have done, and we'll get into those details, but stay tuned. This is episode 1. I will try to do this probably once a week. We'll see how that goes, but appreciate you. See ya.